I think it's afternoon now. So glad to see you all with us. We're going to get started on the Rock Your Facebook Page webinar. I'm Fawn from NC Child, and really grateful that you all are here with us today. And first thing I want to do is just invite you all to sign in. I can see your names in the attendee list, but I thought I'm going to try to make this as interactive as I can. I know that these virtual formats are not always ideal for interaction, but just use the chat box, share your organization and where you're located. And I think that will give us all a chance to see who's here and participate just a little bit more. So I see Tracy popping in and Carrie Ann. Thanks everybody. It's great to see you. So take a minute and look through that chat at who else is here with you. As I see y'all, your names and your locations coming in, one of the things I also want to say as we get started is how grateful I am to each of you for being here with each other, with NC Child. This has been a really difficult week or longer for a lot of us. And I'm always grateful for the work that you're doing and for your presence when we get together, and more so now than ever. I know that many of you are hurting and in pain and struggling with the racial violence and rhetoric that's happening in our country right now. I hope that you're also feeling hope. I hope that you're also feeling love and support. And I just want you to know that I care about you, each of you. And this is a challenging time and we're in it together. So before we start talking about social media, let's just take a moment of silence for a second to allow ourselves to experience the feelings that we have today for a moment, and also just to be present with each other. Thanks, everybody. I am looking at the sign in and I see folks from all across the state, and I'm just really grateful that you're here. So thank you. As we are getting started, another thing that I wanted to ask everybody to do is think about why you're here today and what question you have. If there's something specific that you want to get out of this training, I would love for you to share that in the chat box as well. I think everybody comes to these kinds of trainings with different levels of knowledge, and I planned this as a fairly basic Facebook session for folks who don't have a lot of time to spend on Facebook. So we're going to cover some fairly basic territory, but we can get into more advanced areas if you want to. So take a minute. If you have a question, something that you wanted to learn in this session today, please go ahead and type that in the chat box too. Don't be shy. I think, you know, we are all beginners at everything most of the time. So if you have a question that you want to share in that chat box, I would love to see it. And then this is just an overview of what I'm planning to cover today. Oh, great. I see some questions coming up. This is great. This is the overview of what I want to cover today. Really the very basics of make sure your Facebook page is ready for business. A couple of quick tips to grow your following pretty organically and for free. I'm going to show you how to look under the hood and see who's on your page and how your posts are performing, to give you more of a sense of what and when to post on your Facebook page and how you make a schedule to make that easier for yourself. And then I was going to cover a little bit about boosting posts. So that's what I'm planning to cover. And then I see that folks are asking about Facebook stories, getting the most out of your page, reviews, a Facebook live count for our data. That's a good question. So if I don't get to your question in the course of the presentation, we can have more discussion at the end. You can ask questions anytime in the chat box. And then we can also unmute at the end to discuss a little bit more. So thanks everybody for sharing your thoughts. The first tip I want to give you is the About section of your organization's Facebook page. So I'm showing NC Childs. This is, this is what our page looks like when you come to it. And you can see that orange arrow is going down to where you can find About. And that's where you want to make sure this is complete and totally filled out. So the stuff that you definitely want to have in there, a link to your website has to be there. Your mission statement. There's a place called Our Story. That's a great place to talk just a little bit more about the impact that your organization has. Make sure there's a good email address and good contact information for your agency, the city and country where you're located. Make sure you select the correct category for your page so that you can access all the tools and features on Facebook that are right for you. So there are specific donation tools, for example, that Facebook only makes available to nonprofits. Those are only available to you if you designate yourself as a nonprofit in that category. There's also a call to action button. You can see it in, I think it's in blue. Sorry, I have to fool with my webinar window. Yeah, you can see it on this page. It's a blue button that says learn more right underneath our big image there. That's really prime real estate. A good call to action is something that you can change throughout the year. For example, if you're in the middle of a fundraising campaign, that can say donate. If you want people, you're really doing a push to get people to sign up for your mailing list, that can say sign up. So that's something that you can revisit through the course of the year. So getting this About section complete is really important. Facebook's algorithm uses this information for your page to make sure that it shows up in people's searches. So a complete page means you're more likely to pop up when people are searching for, foster care Charlotte, you're more likely to pop up. And so those are the things you need to include. And if you take nothing else away from this presentation, I hope that everybody goes and makes sure that their About section is complete today when we're finished. So the second tip I want to give you, and I'm showing a colleague, our colleague organization Prevent Child Abuse's page here so that you can just see how it looks on a different page. You can grow your followers very organically. Hopefully you've already done this. When you're on your Facebook page, you follow the orange arrow in that image down to where it says invite friends. Right now, go to your page and click that invite friends button, and Facebook will invite all of your contacts and friends to follow your page. It's a really, really powerful tool. That's something that you should do. And then at your next staff meeting, stop, take a break, ask all your staff members to pull up your organization's Facebook page and invite all their friends to like it as well. And then at your next board meeting, do the same thing with your board. Staff and board, volunteers, anyone else you want to pull in. These are your best ambassadors for your organization, and their contacts are people who are very likely to like and follow your page. So you will be amazed at how your following explodes when you do this simple exercise. It's completely free. It takes just a second and it will grow your following dramatically. So quick and easy tip for you there. And it's something that, don't ask people to do it later. Just do it in the moment and get it done. And it really works well. The next point I want to make about your page is that you need to use a really good cover photo. You know the saying, you only get one chance to make a first impression. Make sure that the photo that you choose says what you want to say about this organization. Don't use words to tell the story, use images to tell the story. You can see our friends at the Early Childhood Foundation have this great image of preschool aged kids learning on their page. And I shared the sizing for a good profile photo and cover photo here on the screen. If you have a picture up right now that's not a picture, but a bunch of words, like this one, this is like a logic model or something that people are using as their cover photo. You want to, use the place for an image to put a great image. In the nonprofit world, we use a lot of words all the time, and you don't get a lot of opportunities to put a gorgeous image in front of someone, so use the opportunity well. That's all I'm going to say about bad cover photos. So before we jump into audience, I'll just say, these three things the About section, inviting your contacts to follow, and put in a great cover photo. That's your homework for today. So if you are done with this presentation right now and you have other things to do, I hope you do those 3 things when we're done, because they'll make a big difference for the traffic that you get to your page and how likely you are to grow that following on your page. Okay, so that's the basics. Now I'm going to get into a little bit more thinking about maybe intermediate level content. I want to dive into sort of how do you understand who your audience is? How do you know who is visiting your Facebook page and using your Facebook page? Some of you may know a lot about your audience. You may do regular research on your audience and track that stuff carefully, who they are, why they're connected to you. If so, that is great. But even if you don't, Facebook has some really useful tools for helping you learn more about your audience. And I mean, everybody knows that when you're talking to someone, you need to know who you're talking to so that you can deliver the right message to them. And so that if you know what kinds of content that your audience likes, you can give them more of what they want so that they stay more engaged with you and they're more likely to take action when you put out a call to action or donate when you ask them to donate. I'm not going to dive a whole lot into audience research and message development today. That's an area that I love and I love to nerd out on. So if that's something that you would like more of, let me know. I'm thinking about developing a presentation like that for the Child Advocacy Network in the future. But we're just going to keep it basic right now and look at some of the tools that Facebook makes available to you. So here's our page again. I'm just going to show you how you look under the hood at some of the metrics. And hopefully you all already do this, but just in case you don't, I'm showing you here on the screen where to find insights about your page. And I'm going to stop sharing this presentation and actually go into NC Child's Facebook page for a second so that you can see what I'm talking about. So bear with me because I'm walking and chewing gum at the same time. Let's see. Need to share Google. Sorry. That's not what I want you to see. Let's see. Facebook. Okay, there we go. So when you go to more and click Insights, this is the page that you're going to land on. And this is what your insights look like. This is showing you just a summary from the last 7 days. So there's a couple specific things that I think you might like to see. First, I want you to take a look at the people section. So if you can see my cursor navigating down the left side of the page at overview, I'm going to go down to people. This is a great place to learn more about who is hanging out on your page. I don't understand all of the metrics that Facebook is using here, but the things that I think are important, look at your followers. So this is a snapshot they're giving me from the last, I think this is from the last 7 days because that's what we were looking at on the overview. So here is who is following our page. 85% of our followers are women, as you can see, 14% are men. And then you can see the age breakouts of who's following our page across here. This is something we've worked hard on, is trying to do a better job of engaging with parents by bringing the age range of our followers down a little bit. And we've done that through targeted ad campaigns and different things, but you can see that most of our followers are in the sort of 35 to 54 age range. And most of them are women. So that right there tells you a lot about who's following your page. And then you can scroll down a little bit and you can see what cities they're located in. And you can see also what languages they speak. You probably know this already, but people can choose what language they want to use Facebook in. So that's how Facebook knows what language they speak or they prefer to use for Facebook. So even if you post something in English, Facebook can translate what you've posted into the preferred language of the user for posts that you type in. That doesn't work if you post an image that has text on it, but it does work for different posts that you make. So that's kind of cool because it lets you communicate with more people, even if you don't necessarily have someone who speaks that additional language working for you and posting things. So these are our followers. And then I think another metric that I like to look at is people engaged. So people may not follow your page, but they may be engaging with your posts for different reasons. So when I look at people engaged on our page, I see that the percentage, there are a little bit more, there's a little bit more men engaging with our posts. But the age of people engaging with our posts really dramatically swings to the over 65. So that's telling me that although my followers skew younger, people who are actually commenting, liking, and sharing skew way older on our page. So that's something I need to think about and work on. But again, you can see what city people are in when they're engaging with our posts. And you see down the list, you have some smaller North Carolina towns here, Concord and Marion. And that's because sometimes when we boost a post or place an ad, we might be targeting a specific geographic area, and that can change where people are located who are engaging with our posts. So that is a really useful way to look at who's engaging with your posts. And then the other thing I want to show you a little bit more about is the posts themselves. If you scroll down this menu to posts, I think this is really, really useful information when your fans are online. So for people who are viewing, engaging, following your page, when are they on Facebook? You can see from this chart that Facebook users on our page start really ticking upwards around noon. And then around 2 or 3, the spike gets a little higher. Our page viewing really peaks, or our users using Facebook really peak between 5 and 6 p.m. Right about 5:30 p.m. is where it plateaus. And then after 6, really plummets. So what that tells you is if you want to post something, don't post it at 7 p.m. just as your followers are all logging out for the day. You want to catch the wave. So you want to post back here sometime between 12 and 3 when the viewership is starting to really increase, so that you catch that wave and get your content in front of the most people possible. So this is something that actually we've seen shift a little earlier in the day since COVID-19 started. Our peak used to be a little bit later with people staying online longer and using it not quite as much back here during the workday. So we have shifted our posting slightly earlier to do a better job of meeting that. But this is something I think is really important to look at, is when people are looking at your page. Don't miss the peak. Post before it. You can also look at what types of posts are reaching the most people on your page. So first thing I'm going to do is filter this for a second, because this says show all posts or exclude targeted posts. And what I want to look at right now is really the organic reach, not things we're paying for. And we are running some ads on our page. So I'm going to exclude targeted posts so that we can just look at average engagement. How likely are people to engage with something, click on it, react to it, share it? So you see that for us, photos are the most popular. After that are sharing links. So for us, that's usually sharing a link to a media story or maybe an action alert or something like that. And then below that, videos. And far less popular is like one of those status updates where you just like type words into a box like, how you doing? I'm sad today, and share that. And then you can look a little bit more down here at your different posts to see which posts are doing really well, which posts are not doing so well. You know, who's sharing the heck out of some of these posts versus, you know, posts that really aren't getting a lot of love. If you check in on this even once, you know, look at a 30-day period or a 6-month period to see, you know, what does your audience like? Do they absolutely love when you share news stories? Our audience really does. They are news hounds, no question about it. Do your action alerts fall flat? Ours do. When I share a link to one of our action alerts and I'm like, call your legislator, take action, that doesn't perform very well on our Facebook page for whatever reason. So it's really important to look in at those things once in a while to make sure that you're giving the people what they want. I'm not saying never share posts that are the least sort of popular, but do share stuff that they want to see. That's what you should be sharing the most often. And Carrie Ann is asking, are you able to see these data as far back as a year? I think the answer is yes to that question. Let me go back up here because I think that we can change the time period that you're looking at. Oh, I was just looking at this earlier and now I forget where I was looking at it. Yes, so if you click on followers, you can change the time period that you're looking at. And I think you can go back. Yeah, I can go back to May 1st of 2019 through today. And you can see how your page followers are changing. And I think that when I click another one of these metrics, that page, that time selection sticks. Nope, it's still showing me a 1 week period. But you can, when you scroll down through your posts and click see more, you can keep clicking see more again and again, and it's going to take you further and further back in time. So you can look pretty far back at your post data. So yeah, one thing that I wanted to share that I like to do is just look at, like, I made a little template for myself that's like followers, men, women. We actually have a report that we do quarterly. Followers, where they're located, their demographics, and what kinds of posts are performing the best and worst. And we look at that quarterly. And it just helps. And also when our followers are online or our fans are online. Fans are not just your followers, but anybody who's seeing your posts. And that's something that we track regularly so that we can continue adjusting our strategy to make sure that we're still giving the people what they want. Or so that we can start trying to give the people what they want, maybe more to the point. So that's just a quick look under the hood of our page. I'm going to stop sharing our page and go back to the presentation. So bear with me again as I pull up the PowerPoint. I did it. Okay, y'all, I'm really impressed with myself for keeping up with the technology here. Sorry, small victories every day, right? As we're talking about what kinds of things to post, I just want to share a couple quick guidelines for great posts, and maybe this is old news to all of you, and you can send me negative comments later if this is way too basic, but I just want to share some things that work for us. First of all, this is by far the most important. Do what works for your audience, and that overrules everything else I'm about to say. If your audience absolutely loves it when you share status updates about how you're feeling and they hate seeing images and stuff, then do that, right? That's what works for your audience. So that is the golden rule. Beyond that, always have a good image. I used an image of a dog because I liked the picture, but always use a good image on your Facebook posts. You don't want a post that's just a bunch of words. Posts with an image are like, I think it's something like 10 times or something more likely to get looked at and get seen and get a click. So if you're posting something and you're not including an image, stop, take a deep breath, take 5 minutes to find a good image to use with that post, because it's going to get you way, way, way more engagement, and it's not worth your time to post something nobody's going to look at. Words are not images. A picture of a word is not a picture, it's just more words. And that's for all of the nonprofit policy people out there, including myself in that. We love pictures of charts and graphs and words, but those aren't very eye-catching, and people sometimes click on them, but not nearly as much as an arresting photo. When you use text in your posts, keep it simple, keep it straightforward. Use the kind of language that you would use if you were talking to your friend or a regular person. Make sure that your voice is a voice that people can easily connect with. I'll just give you an example of one of my favorite phrases that people use all the time: access to healthcare. People can't get access to healthcare. They can't access the services they need. Have you ever heard anyone say, I need to go access some healthcare today? No, people say, I need to go to the doctor today. So make sure that the words that you're using are words that normal people would use in everyday life. They are much easier to understand and much more likely for people to stop and think about and relate to and click on. And then last thing, Facebook has some really great tools to make sure that the links and the images that you share will actually work well. There's something called a sharing debugger for your links. and then a Facebook image testing tool. So I'm going to send you all an email after this is over with all these links and with the recording of the presentation. So you don't need to try to write these links down or anything right now. So the way the sharing debugger works is, have you ever tried to share like a news article or a web link on your Facebook page? And when you look at the website, it has great images, but when you share it on your Facebook page, the preview doesn't contain any image. And so it's just like an ugly box with words and nobody clicks on it. So Facebook has this great tool called a sharing debugger where you can paste the link into the sharing debugger, click debug, and Facebook does something called scraping the link. And Facebook is just checking all the code embedded in that web page to make sure it didn't miss anything. And usually, it doesn't always work, but usually it cleans up the link, and what it winds up displaying in the preview is that page with the appropriate image, and it looks nice, and people will click on it, and everyone will be happy. So that's a great tool. And then the other one, the image testing tool, it's also called a text overlay tool. That is specifically for, I wish I had put an example on the page, but we do this all the time. You share an image, a picture of a child with an apple, and on your image it says, come to the event on Friday, 3 o'clock, blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot of words on your image. Facebook does not like it when there are words embedded in an image. And the more words you have embedded in the image, the less likely Facebook is to show it to anybody. So Facebook has this great image overlay tool where you actually upload the image to the tool, and it tells you, is this good, okay, or bad? And if it's good, no problem, Facebook will let everybody see your image. If it's okay, Facebook is already telling you, we're going to suppress your image a little bit. And if it comes up as bad, too much text, Facebook is telling you, we are not going to show this post to anybody because you put too many words on your image. So it's a really great tool to make sure that you're not cluttering up your images with lots of words, because Facebook wants quality posts and you want quality posts. Let's see. Oh, Elaine is asking a great question about where to find good images to use. Oh, Elaine, great question. I'm going to make a note about that and make sure that I send you all some good links to finding royalty-free images in the follow-up email. Because you don't want to use images that are copyrighted or that belong to someone else. And if you just do a Google image search, you're likely to get images that you're not actually allowed to use. So great question, Elaine. I'll include those links in the follow-up email. Ruthie, will you get the slides? Yes, I will send the slides as well in the follow-up email. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is, this is just a simple, so I think, back up a second, just look at the dog picture and don't think too much about the words on the next slide. I think it's really great to sort of have a schedule of what you want to post on Facebook. I think that makes it easier. I find it's really hard to keep up with social media. I'm one of those people, and this is sad to admit because I'm a communications person. I get so overwhelmed by social media. You probably all do too. I think it's really important to do your work on a schedule. If you have to look at Facebook during the week, plan the time when you're going to look at Facebook during the week. I like to schedule posts out in advance. And same is true for Twitter and Instagram and all the other platforms that we use. And I think it makes it easier to think about, well, what do I want to post, instead of in any given day, you're like, oh man, it's already 5 and I never posted anything to our Facebook page today. So I prefer to use a schedule, and the data that we just looked at about when people are looking at your page is a great way to figure out what time you should be posting and what kinds of content you might want to be posting on different days. So I'm throwing up a sample Facebook posting schedule. For NC Child, we post on Facebook every single day, once a day. We do not post lots and lots of times. And that is because Facebook doesn't like that. And they are likely to start suppressing your posts if you post too much. So we post just once a day, right around 2 p.m., 2:30, something like that, so that we can catch our wave. And these are the kinds of things that we might post. So, some days, most days, we're going to be posting a news story, a professional development resource that we think you all might be interested in. Every Wednesday, we share our blog post for the week. We might post an action alert once a week, never more than once a week, because like I said, people don't click on those so much. On the weekends, we really like to share more uplifting stories, inspiring stories. And then by the time we get to Sunday afternoon, people are rolling back into the week and we start sharing news stories again. So this is just an example, but especially if you are the only person at your agency who deals with Facebook, it's great to have a schedule like this to keep yourself on track. Or if you're delegating this to someone else, maybe an intern or another coworker, giving them a schedule to say like, these are the kinds of things and here's when, it makes their life easier too. And I really highly recommend using Facebook's scheduling tool to just go ahead and schedule things ahead of time. You can also schedule holidays and other important posts way out ahead of time. This yellow box on the screen is the complete list of social media holidays for 2020. Which day is Donut Day? Which day is Bring Your Dog to Work Day? Which day is National Foster Care? You know, when is National Foster Care and Adoption Month? You know, things that your organization may really want to lift up on Facebook, not just the silly stuff. So there's a list of social media holidays, and I'll send that in the follow-up email too. And you can see here on the screen, I'm showing NC Child's page, and under the little more arrow, where to find publishing tools. I'm sure you all already know how to do this, but just in case there's someone out here who doesn't know how to schedule posts in advance, use this publishing tools feature to schedule your posts ahead of time. You can schedule your Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween, graduation, Easter, anything you want to post ahead of time for 2020 or further out right now. Get them all scheduled ahead of time and you won't have to worry about it when those holidays get close. And let's see. Okay, we're going to talk for just a second about boosting posts. We're going to do a quiz. I did a poll. Let's see if it will work. Okay, I'm launching this poll. Can you all see the poll on your screen? It's called Boosting Posts. When should you boost a post? Should you boost a post, A, to help a struggling post with a little boost so that more people will see it? Or B, should you boost a high-performing piece of content to get it in front of more like-minded people? So for those of you who boost posts, or even who've just been thinking about whether you should do it, go ahead and vote. I see people, oh good, I see people voting. Great, glad this is working. Y'all, I've never done this poll thing before. 70% of results are in. Not all precincts have reported, so we're just still waiting for a few more precincts to report in. All right, well, 80% of people participating have voted, so I'm gonna go ahead and report out. You can probably, I don't know if you guys can see the results already, but A, help a struggling post with a little boost so that more people will see it. 22% of respondents chose that choice. And B, boost high performing content to get it in front of more people. 78% of respondents chose that one. And B is the correct answer. You really want to be strategic about what you are boosting. So if you have crappy content that no one's clicking on, you don't need to be a social worker for that content and help it along. It's just not very good content for whatever reason. The best you can do is learn from it. Like, oh, this image is terrible. Or, oh, I posted this at midnight. Maybe that's why no one saw it. Instead, what you want to do is when a post is like on fire and Facebook gives you a little flame and it's like, this post is hot, everybody likes it. That's the kind of content that you want to boost. And when I say everybody likes it, I mean compared to the rest of your content. You don't have to judge by an external metric about link clicks or shares or whatever. Base it, compare it to your own content performance. So if this post is doing better than 90% of all the content on your page, and it's something you really, really want people to see because it's core to your mission, or it's because it's about an event that you're sponsoring or something, that's when you might want to give a post a little boost. Oh, I just shared the poll results. Sorry, I thought I had shared it before. Is there a place in Insights where we can, sorry, I'm seeing a question coming in the chat box and I don't know the answer to it right now. So we'll come back to that. Sorry. So just to stick with the boosting for a second, you can tell I'm into dog pictures today, guys. Here's a place where you can look at, like, should I be boosting this post? So when you have shared a post on your page, you can click on your post to see more, to see its performance. How many people did it reach? How many reactions and comments did you get? And if you're like 10 shares, most of my posts get no shares. And this is a really important piece of information that I want everybody to see. That might be a really good post to boost. Sorry, I'm behind in my notes. So I guess really the question is, who do you want to boost your post to? You want to boost high-performing posts. A good thing to do is promote local events, but most importantly, you want to target your audience. You don't just want to boost to, randomly boost to anybody who might see it. This is really important. If you're going to spend money to boost posts, make sure that you're targeting your audience. There is no such thing as the general public. You don't want everybody and their grandmother to see your post. That's a waste of your money. You want to choose strategically. Is your event happening in Concord? Then you should be boosting your event in Concord, not all over the state. Or does your organization only serve Southeastern North Carolina? Then you should really just be boosting this post to people who live in Southeastern North Carolina. Or is this an event for grandparents? Make sure you're choosing a good age selection when you're deciding who to target with that boost. We've created a couple of standard audiences in NC Child's ads manager, and we use those all the time to boost posts to people who we think will want to see them and who we want to engage with. Another option in boosting posts is you can always choose boost to your followers or boost to your followers and their friends. If what you're putting out is like core content about your organization's activities, like for example, your end of the year fundraiser, that's a good thing to boost to your followers because you already know they love you. They want to see your content. It's a way to make sure that they don't miss that because it's important. I'm really curious about whether you all are already using Facebook ads and boosting posts. So if you are doing that, maybe just put a comment in the chat box to say, yes, I'm boosting, yes, I'm placing ads, or no, I haven't tried that yet. So I'm seeing 3, 4 boosts. Haven't tried it yet. Boost ads for our fundraising event. So some people are doing it occasionally. Some people haven't tried it yet. One of the things I'm going to send you in the follow-up email is just some information about how to get started with Facebook ads if you want to do it. The main things that you need are a valid credit card, and you have to set up a Facebook Business Manager account. But once you go through that rigmarole, it's pretty straightforward. And you don't need to spend a lot of money to make sure that people see your content. If you, like right now, for example, none of us can have in-person events, right? Your annual fundraising event, your conference, your annual meeting. If you had a marketing budget for those events, then you can try spending some of that marketing budget on boosting the event for that page or boosting ads for that event on your Facebook page. It's not expensive, and it lets you really, as I said, carefully target who you want to have see that. But I think that being strategic and targeting people is really, really important because, if your event is, for, like I said, for grandparents in Guilford County, then you can target grandparents in Guilford County with your ad. You don't need to spend money for like a 22-year-old college student to see that event. That's not your target audience. And also when you boost posts and ads on Facebook, you get the option to also boost them on Instagram because Facebook owns Instagram. It's a great option, and as long as the image looks good and the text is short and succinct, that's another way to reach more people in a target audience. So that is what I was planning to present, and I would love to know from you all, is there anything that you are, actually let's talk about that in a second, because I see that we have questions in the chat. Carrie Ann is asking about stories. I don't have advice for stories, because when we use Facebook stories, we only do it with paid content, and I let Facebook do it automatically. So that's not something I know much about, but if other folks on the webinar have advice or information to share about stories, I would love to hear it. And you can unmute yourself. You can either leave a comment in the chat box. L. Bill is saying, I use stories all the time. That's great. So if you want to unmute yourself and share any resources, that's awesome. Or if you want to share a link in the chat, that's great too. And he's saying, yes, hold on. Okay, cool. I'm scrolling back in the chat box a little bit to look at more questions. While we're waiting on that, I see a question further back from Carrie Ann. How do you handle Facebook reviews? How much weight do you give to this metric? Carrie Ann, I'm curious about what do you mean by handling them? Like, do you mean if you have gotten a negative review or a positive review, or what to do with them? If you want to unmute and say more about that, that would be great. Or if you want to chat more about it in the chat box, that would be great too. Oh, L. Bill is saying, I don't know how to unmute myself. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I don't have video, so I'm just gonna do audio.
No worries.
So with stories, what the Partnership for Children of Wayne County do is we make our own pictures, like that's obviously copyright free, making sure that they're just pictures that we can use. Like for example, I did something about wear, weight, wash.
Oops, we lost your audio. Nope, we lost her audio.
Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Okay, you want me to start over?
You were saying you boosted one about, or you did one about wear, weight, wash.
Yes, wear, weight, wash. It was a CDC guideline. And we put it on there, and it was a picture, and all you do is just put it up there, and then you can add like little GIFs, which is like little movement parts to the story to make it a little bit more fancy. But there's a bunch of ways that you can make your story pop.
Cool. That's great. And if folks have any links or resources about that they want to share, I can also put that in the follow-up email. But very cool. Thank you for sharing that. So Carrie Ann, who asked the question about negative reviews, doesn't have a mic connected, but she had a negative review 3 years ago, and no one knows the person or why they got a negative review. So, you know, I think that the best thing to do in that situation is just to kind of drown out the negative review with as many positives as you can get. And one way to do that, you can always ask your board, your volunteers, your clients to please leave you a review. A board meeting is an amazing time to do something like that because you have a captive audience and you can give them time to just do it right there on the spot. I love making board members do work in the board meeting like that. You can ask friends, you can ask people that you know, love, and support your organization to write a positive review. And I think that just helps kind of balance things out. If it's a really ugly review and they're saying harsh and nasty things, that may be something that you want to think about removing. But I think the best practice is just to ask your fans to share why they like you. Oh, no comment, just less stars. Okay, yeah, so I think that's a great example of like, just ask your fans to leave a positive review, and that really helps balance things out. Cool. Looking back at more comments, there's so many great comments and questions here. I want to make sure that I'm getting them all. Are pages or groups more likely to get seen by a follower? That's a question from Joe. Joe, that's a really great question. Pages and groups have two really different functions. So your organization's page on Facebook, think about it almost like your website, where this is kind of a storefront for your organization. It's where you share what your mission statement is, what your hours are, who this is for, latest news. You know, your Facebook page is really like a front door, storefront, bulletin board about your organization, inviting people in. That's the function of a page, and that's where you should be posting regularly. Oops, I need to mute somebody. Sorry. That's where you want to be posting your regular content. A Facebook group, you want to think of much more like one of those old-fashioned chat groups from the early days of the internet, right? When you had like-minded people getting together to talk to each other and share information. That's the point of a Facebook group. So for example, we have a group because we have a parent advisory council, and the parent advisory council is like a mutual support group. They do trainings, they have meetings together. So it's like an established group with specific members, and we created a Facebook group for them so that they would have a way to communicate with each other really easily. So that's a great way to use a group. I also see people using Facebook groups as a place for a support group to meet and to talk to each other and share resources with each other. So they're just really different, and I don't know what's more likely to get seen. I think it really depends on how active the group or the page is and what you're posting. I'm just going through the comments and questions. Would love some more resources on audience research. I will share that. And Carrie Ann, if you want to connect about that later, it's like my favorite thing to nerd out about. Okay, I have a question, another question from Carrie Ann. Would you count sharing someone else's content as a post? Like I might create one day, but share another organization's post throughout the day. If you're talking about on your organization's page, then yes, anything you post as your organization, whether it's a share or a photo or anything, that does count as a post. So if you're posting lots of stuff as your organization throughout the day, Facebook might get tired of it and start suppressing you in people's news feeds. So you want to really be mindful about what you're sharing as your organization. And also think about the fact that this is your organization's brand, right? So if you're sharing something from another organization, that could be a great thing to do. And I definitely encourage it. But I think the majority of what you share should be from your organization's voice, from your organization's standpoint. And sometimes that may be, you know, content you got from somewhere else, but you want to make sure that you're putting out, most of what you're putting out really is from your organization. And if there's other stuff that you just think is cool or you like it or whatever, you might want to share that from you personally rather than sharing it from your organization, so that your organization's core important posts don't get suppressed by Facebook. Down through the questions, found the answer. Okay, from Kim to all panelists, are there any benefits to using hashtags on Facebook posts? In general, I would say no. Hashtags don't work really on Facebook quite the same way that they do on Twitter. People just behave differently on Facebook and on Twitter, and some of you may have better information about Facebook's algorithms and how the hashtags work, but generally on Facebook, hashtags are not so much of a thing. There's one benefit that I have seen, and others may have seen other uses, but if you are doing something like a day of action, where you want everybody in your county today to really lift up literacy. Today is the day, and you need to track how many people are posting about literacy today in your county, whatever. Then you can use a hashtag for that, and you can encourage everybody to use it in that post on Facebook, so that at the end of the day, you can click on your hashtag and you can see how many posts there were about that in that day. But to do it, you need to use a very unique hashtag, which is hard to do. And you need to make sure that everybody is using it, which, because Facebook is not so hashtaggy of a place, they may not do unless you're giving them a template. So generally speaking, I would say no to hashtags on Facebook, but that's just my opinion. Other people may think other things. Some more, there's great info in here on stories in the chat box. And another question, does anybody use Facebook groups to communicate with your volunteers? I think Facebook groups is a great way to communicate with volunteers as long as they are on Facebook. Some people are really heavy Facebook users and they'll answer you instantly. And other people like me, I check it maybe once a month on my personal Facebook. So I'm not a great person to talk to over Facebook. So I think it's just important to know your audience. If your audience are all about Facebook, then yes, use your Facebook group to communicate with them and make sure that they know that that's how you're going to communicate with them. Try it, see what works. And if they don't like it, you don't have to do it. But Facebook groups can be a really useful tool if those folks are already big Facebook users. And Ruthie is saying she uses groups for her Play and Learn program. So yeah, it can be a really great way to talk to people. I think the big takeaway from this part of the conversation is really that you need to know your audience. You need to know, like, if they're on Facebook all the time, excuse me, that's the place to talk to them. And if really they're on Instagram, that's where you should be talking to them. But hopefully this was useful for you, for those who have lots of folks engaging on Facebook. So I just wanted to ask everybody before we wrap up, do you have any action steps for your Facebook page that you're going to do as a result of our conversation today, from the info that I shared or that any of your colleagues shared? Just curious if any of you were like, yes, right now I am going to go change my cover picture or something. So if any of you were like, yeah, here's my action step, I know what I'm going to do, I would love to see it. Please enter it in the chat box. I know that for myself, I'm going to go check our call to action box because I haven't looked at it in a little while. So Carrie Ann is going to do a bunch: the about section, a new cover photo, and get a volunteer Facebook group going. Ruthie's going to develop a post schedule. Tracy's going to take a look at the insights for the page and check out boosting posts. And yes, inviting all friends. Everybody go invite all your friends. Check when our fans are online and track demographics quarterly. Those are all really great takeaway steps. I made a little to-do list of, like, these are the 3 quick and easy things everybody can do today when you leave. Make sure that Facebook about page is complete and up to date. Make sure your cover photo is gorge. You know, make sure it's a beautiful image, and create a schedule for posting. Really makes your life simpler. Cool. So that's the homework. I hope that this was helpful info. I'm sharing my contact information on this last page. Feel free to reach out to me if you have questions or if you need help with any of this stuff. I'm not the world's greatest Facebook expert, but I have certainly beat my head against the desk while using Facebook plenty of times, and maybe I have learned something in the process. So happy to sympathize with you in your Facebook struggles and try to share whatever I can that might help you. So stay in touch, and I will send out the video. I will share out all the links and resources that we talked about. Thank you all so much for being here today. If you want to talk to each other right now, feel free to unmute yourself and say hello. I know it's hard to all be isolated from each other. And I just really appreciate everything you all are doing right now. It's such a joy to be here with all of you. And hope to see you in real life sometime soon. And yes, I will send information on how to get NC Child's newsletter as well. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy. I appreciate you all so much. Take care.